24 hours ago in Berlin, we witnessed the latest chapter in Aryna Sabalenka's troubling pattern of wanting rules to bend her way. After dominating Rebeka Masarova 6-2 in the first set, the world number one found herself on the wrong side of a match suspension she didn't want. Her reaction, pure entitlement, and the tennis world is finally saying enough.
What we witnessed in Berlin wasn't just frustration, it was a masterclass in double standards. When Sabalenka needs match stoppages, they're justified. When others request them through proper channels for legitimate safety concerns, it's suddenly gamesmanship. This level of cognitive dissonance reveals someone who believes the tennis world should revolve around their preferences.
I've covered tennis for 2 decades, and I've never seen a top player so consistently show this level of disrespect for opponents, officials, and basic fairness. Berlin wasn't an isolated incident, it's the inevitable result of unchecked entitlement that's been building for months. The pattern is undeniable.
Today we're examining how Berlin exposed everything wrong with Sabalenka's approach to tennis. From her hypocritical demands to her complete dismissal of player safety, this incident crystallizes a pattern that thousands of viewers have been tracking. This is about double standards, entitled behavior, and what happens when success breeds arrogance. Let's set the scene. Berlin Open, June 18, 2025. Aryna Sabalenka is cruising against Rebeka Masarova, leading 6-2 in the first set. Then Masarova, citing legitimate safety concerns about slippery court conditions, requests through proper channels that play be suspended. The umpire and supervisor agree. Here's how the world number one responded.
"You're stopping the match because she said that side is slippery. I just played 2 games on that side. She's just losing the match."
That response tells us everything. Notice how Sabalenka immediately assumes malicious intent, exactly what she accuses others of doing to her. She can't conceive that an opponent might have legitimate concerns. In her mind, any decision that doesn't favor her must be tactical manipulation. The pattern of projection is unmistakable.
But here's where this gets truly hypocritical. Just weeks earlier, in May 2025, Sabalenka did exactly what she's now accusing Masarova of doing. Against Marta Kostyuk, she unilaterally stopped play without even consulting the umpire. Kostyuk's reaction was telling.
"She is never winning a sportsman's award, that's for sure. She was waiting for 5 minutes to serve and then she tried to serve again. How is this possible? Why is it first serve?"
The double standard is breathtaking. When Sabalenka stops play against Kostyuk, it's her right as a competitor. When Masarova follows proper procedures in Berlin, it's gamesmanship. This isn't about tennis strategy, it's about someone who believes rules should only apply to other people.
Former U.S. Open champion Andy Roddick weighed in on the Berlin incident, and his analysis was devastating. While agreeing that Masarova's request seemed tactical, he made a crucial comparison that exposes Sabalenka's hypocrisy.
She just wanted the exit door because what was happening out there favored Masarova 0. I did this one time at Wimbledon, and it was purely because I didn't want to play another set, not because it was wet. I was wrong then. Masarova was wrong today, but Sabalenka was absolutely right to be frustrated.
Roddick's honesty highlights what's missing from Sabalenka's character, self-awareness, and accountability. He admits his past tactical withdrawal was wrong. Sabalenka, by contrast, never acknowledges her own gamesmanship while aggressively attacking others for the same behavior. This selective moral outrage is deeply problematic.
There's crucial context that makes Sabalenka's dismissal of Masarova even more troubling. This isn't a player with a history of tactical withdrawals. In 2023 at Bad Homburg, Masarova suffered a serious knee injury on grass courts against Emma Navarro. She literally couldn't get up after slipping and had to retire from the match.
Anyone who's played professional tennis knows grass becomes treacherous when wet. Masarova has legitimate trauma from grass court injuries. For Sabalenka to dismiss these safety concerns as gamesmanship shows a stunning lack of empathy. She's literally prioritizing her momentum over another player's physical well-being.
The tennis community's reaction to Berlin has been swift and damning. The top comment on Reddit, with over 370 upvotes, perfectly captured the sentiment. She thinks she's above everyone else. Another fan wrote, "Always something with Sabalenka. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore."
When your behavior becomes so predictable that fans can anticipate your next controversy, you've crossed from competitive intensity into problematic entitlement. The tennis community isn't just noticing isolated incidents anymore, they're recognizing a character pattern that undermines the sport's values.
What makes Berlin particularly damaging is its timing. This happened just days after Sabalenka apologized to Coco Gauff for her French Open comments. She claimed regret for calling Gauff's victory magical and a joke. Yet here she is, immediately repeating the same dismissive behavior toward another opponent.
That's what makes this so insidious. The apology to Gauff was supposed to signal growth and self-reflection. Instead, Berlin proves those apologies were performative damage control. You can't claim to respect opponents while simultaneously accusing them of cheating when they raise legitimate concerns.
Let's examine the specific language Sabalenka used in Berlin. She's just losing the match. This phrase reveals everything about how she processes opposition. In Sabalenka's worldview, any decision that doesn't favor her must be motivated by desperation or weakness from her opponents.
This language demonstrates what psychologists call fundamental attribution error. She attributes her opponent's actions to character flaws while viewing her own identical behavior as justified by circumstances. She literally cannot process that others might have legitimate motivations beyond undermining her success.
The umpire and supervisor in Berlin made exactly the right call. With Masarova's injury history, wet grass conditions, and proper procedural requests, player safety had to take priority. But Sabalenka's aggressive pushback put officials in an impossible position to cave to the world number one's demands or prioritize player welfare.
Officials shouldn't have to choose between doing their job and managing one player's tantrums. When the world's top-ranked player consistently challenges legitimate authority and dismisses safety protocols, it creates a toxic environment that affects everyone in the sport. This behavior has consequences beyond just her matches.
Berlin also exposes the broader pattern we've been tracking. From her selective respect for different opponents to her post-defeat excuses, Sabalenka consistently demonstrates that she believes success should come with different rules. Champions should elevate sportsmanship, not demand exemptions from it.
What's particularly dangerous is how this behavior normalizes entitlement at the highest levels of sport. Young players watching see that success can apparently come with a license to dismiss opponents' concerns, challenge officials aggressively, and demand special treatment. That's the opposite of what sport should teach.
The most revealing aspect of Berlin was Sabalenka's complete inability to consider Masarova's perspective. No acknowledgement of the injury history, no recognition of legitimate safety concerns, no empathy for an opponent's position. Just immediate assumption of malicious intent and aggressive pushback.
True champions show empathy even in frustrating moments. They might be disappointed by stoppages, but they recognize when others have legitimate concerns. Sabalenka's default assumption of bad faith from opponents reveals a character deficiency that no amount of tennis success can mask.
Looking at the timeline, Berlin becomes the inevitable culmination of months of escalating entitled behavior. Madrid comments about Iga Swiatek, French Open dismissal of Coco Gauff, Kostyuk controversy, performative apologies, and now Berlin. Each incident reveals the same core problem: conditional respect based on personal advantage.
When behavior patterns become this consistent and predictable, they stop being isolated incidents and start being character revelations. Berlin didn't surprise anyone who's been paying attention. It was the logical next step in a troubling progression of entitled behavior.
The tennis community's reaction to Berlin shows that patience is running out. When fans, former players, and commentators all recognize the same problematic pattern, it's time for serious self-reflection. Sabalenka's talent is undeniable, but her behavior is undermining her legacy and damaging the sport.
Dr. Mitchell Marcus, thank you for helping us examine this latest chapter in Sabalenka's concerning behavioral pattern. Berlin wasn't about one match suspension. It was about a world number one who believes rules should bend to her will and opponents' concerns should be dismissed if they're inconvenient to her success. This episode was brought to you by Unstructi, where we explore the human cost of unchecked entitlement in professional sports. Today, we've seen how Berlin crystallized everything problematic about Sabalenka's approach to tennis. Double standards, the dismissal of opponents' legitimate concerns, the aggressive challenging of proper authority, and the complete absence of empathy. When you stop a match against Kostyuk but attack Masarova for following proper procedures, you reveal that you believe rules should only protect your interests. When you apologize to Gauff but immediately repeat the same behavior in Berlin, you show those apologies were meaningless performance. When you assume every opponent decision that doesn't favor you must be gamesmanship, you demonstrate a level of narcissism that's toxic to competitive sport. Berlin wasn't an isolated incident. It was the inevitable result of months of entitled behavior that the tennis community is finally calling out. Sometimes the most important conversations aren't about tennis shots, they're about character, respect, and whether success gives anyone the right to treat others as obstacles to their personal advancement. The answer should be obvious. In tennis, as in life. How you treat people when you have power reveals who you really are. Thanks for watching, and remember, subscribe if you want coverage that examines the patterns behind the headlines. The tennis world is watching, and the patterns are becoming impossible to ignore.